He's gonna shove it. Yeah. He's gonna shove it. Man.
Whoa! A wild slam nuts appears. That's right. That's J-E-F-F, J-A-R-E, double J, Jeff Jarrett. Marky D, don't piss me off.
Alright, it's the gut punching, back breaking, girl taking, never shaking, HAWK, all night, all day, except on Sundays when I make your girl spray. Today we've got another video request from a little man who's been waiting very patiently, and a second person who hasn't been waiting quite as long, but they both requested the same video. I think we should all give the first one a round of applause and a pat on the back, and the other guy a punching attack. Today's video request comes from both the MU and the Magpie's Nest Productions. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. And of course,
If you know a wrestler who could do the J.O.B. to the H.A.W.K. any night, any day, ha ha! Shove their name in the comments, Jack!
okay, it's the broken arm boy Shane Douglas. Let's find out if his TNA run is loveless. Shane Douglas is a character which has really interested me in wrestling for a while. He's part of that rare club where he has all the confidence in the world on the mic, but it's something else he seems to be lacking. I'd be interested for people to let me know in the comments what you think Shane was lacking, because I struggle to put my finger on what it was. Perhaps he just needed that one gimmick to connect with the fans. Maybe I'll figure it out as we go along anyway. Douglas was last seen as the broken arm boy in WCW, where he's paid around 328 grand despite seemingly having his arm broken for his entire contract. And I know that's not true. It's just whenever I watch the show he seems to have a broken arm. When WCW closed, Douglas would not be one of those wrestlers who jumped straight to TNA. Instead, he did some weird stuff in XPW, the hardcore wrestling company, and he rocked up a little later than most in TNA in 2003. Match 1, tag match. The gifted Glenn Gilberti, how is he gifted, teams up with Shane Douglas. They take on the team of the man called Raisin, and his partner is a wild Slapnuts appears.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
This match is happening because Douglas cost Raven his title shot. The match starts frantically out of the ring. Raven hits a dive out of the ring onto Gilberti and Douglas. Douglas gets teamed up on by Raven and Slappy for a bit. We get crowd brawling now because we always do in Jeff Jarrett matches. Honestly, I hate to say it because it's match 1, but it has to be one of the most boring main events I've ever seen. Raven eventually takes control and hits the Raisin effect on Douglas, with Gilberti making the save on the pin. Jarrett ends up being sent from the ring with Gilberti and Douglas about to cheat. Douglas takes the referee so that can happen, but then Slappy is back. He hits Gilberti with a guitar. Douglas hits Jarrett with the belly to belly, but then Raven takes him out with a DDT. The match continues though. Father James Mitchell's here, who Douglas has aligned himself with. The ring ends up cleared except for Raven. When he turns around, Mitchell is here and he throws a fireball in his face. The ref rings the bell. That's definitely a DQ if I've ever seen one. The match sucked and Douglas did nothing. It's an F. Match 2. The feud with Raven continues. Well, he caused Raven to get a fireball to the face, so what do you expect? Shane Douglas is just randomly shoved in the ring screaming. He cuts a promo about what a loose cannon he is and how edgy he is. He's talking about things from 1994 and his dead father. Anyway, match 2 is a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Shane Douglas taking on Raven's follower, CM Pepsi Punk. Punk quickly rushes the ring and takes him down with a heel kick. Now he hits a suplex. Nice move now, Punk hits a Northern Lights whilst holding onto the steel chair. Man, Douglas is getting his arm handed to him, and it's not worth much. Punk hits one of the lowest back body drops of all time, followed by a straight up kick to the head. Pepsi won't give him a chance to breathe though, and he hits the dive out of the ring. Unfortunately for Punk, he gets overzealous and goes running. Douglas throws him into the crowd barrier, which leads to an Alabama slam on the outside. The crowd chant Holy Hawk. It's all Douglas now as he throws the Pepsi all around the building. Punk continues to be an idiot and he casually throws a trash can to Douglas in the ring and then proceeds to dive straight into the trash can shot. We get some more standard weapon shots now. It still annoys me that Douglas doesn't use the racket side of the tennis racket to smack Pepsi. Douglas pulls Punk out the corner by his legs, but Punk twists up and hits a jawbreaker. CM Punk quickly dives off the top of a chair into Douglas's face. Douglas has his shirt ripped open now with Pepsi going to town. A simple elbow to the face gets Pepsi Punk a 2. It's a big diving knee in the corner now into a double underhook backbreaker. Somehow Douglas kicks out of that one. Shane Douglas realises he's on the verge of losing and he boots Punk in the nutsack. He looks like he's planning to use brass knuckles now, but instead Punk mashes his head with a chair. Douglas gets up and he jabs Punk in the face with the knuckles. Everyone seems confused. Douglas hits the belly-to-belly suplex for the 3. After the match, James Mitchell shoots CM Punk with the fireball. Pepsi Punk made this match fun, but I was actually shocked how little Douglas did because he's the more established wrestler. I don't remember a single move but the belly to belly. A fun match, but I'm not sure that was down to Douglas. It's a D. Match 3, singles match, Julio De Niro of Mickie James versus Shane Douglas. Just like the last match, it doesn't start well for Douglas. He's hit with a spinning heel kick straight away. Julio is obsessed with the franchise's ugly yellow shirt. Julio hits a suplex, goes back to the t-shirt chokes and some weird wacky takedown assisted by the shirt. The dominance continues. Julio hits a back suplex, but Douglas is up so quickly, so Julio takes him straight down for an STO for a 2 count. Douglas is about to dump in his nappy, but Julio stops his escape and does a leg drop to the nutsack. Douglas seems like he's turned it around with an eyelid poke, but Julio doesn't have eyelids. Julio hits him with a twisting full Nelson slam. That causes Douglas to dump again and he makes it out the ring this time, but immediately Julio dives on him. Mickie starts smacking Douglas on the outside, who looks at her in disbelief. The balls of this girl. De Niro kicks him in the head from the ring apron and dives off the ring steps with an axe handle. When they get up, Douglas hits Julio into the guardrail once, which is the setup for a TKO on the ring steps. We come back to the ring with Douglas hitting a weak looking power slam for a 2. Julio manages to block his next move in the corner and does a sort of handstand with a twisting elbow. And now the match is back to all being Julio. He smashes Douglas with a back body drop and a big flying forearm. Another 2 for Julio. I'm not sure Julio can have many moves left. It's a super kick now. Shane Douglas no-sells that and hits 2 inverted atomic drops to the nutsack. He turns around to see Mickie diving off the top rope into a DDT on him. I think that's about the 5th 2 count for Julio. Then the match ends seconds later when Douglas throws Julio into Mickie and then throws Julio with the belly to belly. One of the least deserving wins of all time, and that's a damn fact. Douglas and Mitchell seem like they're about to burn Julio in the face, but instead they burn Mickie James. It was more fun than the last match, believe it or not, but I just need to see a bit more from Douglas. How can his only move be a finisher? I'll give this one a C. Match 4, 6-man tag. Shane Douglas and the New Church with James Mitchell versus The Gathering, Julio, Pepsi Punk and the man called Raisin. Just like every Shane Douglas match, he gets his ass handed to him and Raven clears him out the ring with a clothesline. Douglas climbs back into the ring and he'll go face to face with Raven. Wait, no he won't. The Slash Man gets him instead. I thought that wouldn't make sense for Douglas to fight him so early. So Douglas spends the next portion of the match doing absolutely nothing. Julio starts going nuts and the heels can't stop him. Shane Douglas is clotheslined out the ring. Other more competent members of the New Church take Julio out, but not Douglas. He's saving his one and only move for the finish, probably. Eventually Douglas does get in the ring against Raven during this hot tag. He takes out the New Church all on his own and hits Douglas with a running knee lift. Shane doesn't want any more of Raven and he dumps in his nappy and leaves. Raven gives chase to the locker room by a curtain when a man dressed as a cartoon mummy reaches through the curtain and drags Raven away. Shane Douglas lets out an evil laugh. Completely randomly, Douglas returns to the ring and dives off the top to hit a doomsday device to Pepsi Punk. Not complaining, but why? No pin is made. Instead, Raven has returned and is placed against the table in the corner. They can't put him through it though. Then there's a ref bump as Raven hits the combination bulldog clothesline. Raven attempts the Raisin effect on Douglas, who's saved by Father James Mitchell. When Raven turns around, he's smashed through the table in the corner, and that's the 3. Can't believe there wasn't a belly to belly in this match. Douglas continues to win all his matches, even if it's unconvincing. A decent match, but I just can't get over that cartoon mummy and evil Shane Douglas laugh. It's a D. Match 5, 6-person Clockwork Orange House of Fun tag match. Shane Douglas, Brian Lee and the Slash Man with James Mitchell will take on Julio, Mickie and Raven. Douglas can't even manage to get into the ring for this one. It never seems to start well for the broken arm boy. The Gathering get tired of waiting for them and Mickie tries to dive on them, which doesn't work for her. Julio also dives on them, which sort of works, but the Raven dropkick definitely works. Douglas puts Raven on the crowd barrier, nutsack first, then clotheslines him off. Later on, Douglas looks like he's attempting Scotty Too Hotty's worm. The Church are in full control, and I've still barely seen Douglas do a thing. Mickie has taken some crazy bumps in this match. It's the real highlight. Finally, Raven appears in the ring, and Douglas gives him a belly to belly. Out of nowhere, Julio almost gets the win for his team, whilst Douglas stands around looking like a dumbass watching on. Douglas tries to hold Mickie so the bulldozer can kick her, but she dodges and Lee kicks Douglas from the ring. Eventually, the Gathering apply abdominal stretches to Lee and Douglas at the same time, whilst Mickie canes them in the gut. Moments later, Douglas is hit with a dual trash can shot to the face. Cool moment now as Raven tells Mickie to hit a diving DDT, and then he throws himself off the apron with an elbow on Douglas through a table. Unfortunately for Raven, the mummy has returned and he's dragged under the ring. He returns and he's now somehow knocked out. Douglas drapes his arm over Raven and that is the 3. This is actually one of my favourite matches in the Asylum era of TNA because everyone does great. That is, everyone but Douglas. Because I just showed you the highlights of this match and there really wasn't much to show for Douglas. He did take some painful shots, so I'll give him that. I'll be kind and give him a C, but I really need him to start doing some more moves, otherwise I'll be marking future matches down. And if you don't like it, shove it. Match 6. We've got a big match here, because Shane Douglas will finally go one-on-one with the man called Raisin. But of course, this is Shane Douglas in a match, so he immediately dumps in his nappy and leaves the ring. Raven tries to drag him into the ring, but instead Raven gets dragged into the ring pole, nutsack first. Douglas also drop toe holds him into the ring steps. It's all feeling pretty slow so far. After sending Raven into a fence, this lady in the crowd goes berserk at him. What was she, Raven's ring rat or something? Raven smacks him one, but the eyelash rake stops him. Douglas throws Raven into the fence, and again he's still arguing with the ring rat. Now we're at the commentary desk and Douglas is arguing with them too. We enter the ring for the first time. Raven tries to start a fight back, but he runs into a Douglas boot. The franchise has a steel chair now. He quickly hits the drop toe hold into the chair. It seems he has so few moves he has to resort to stealing other people's moves. Douglas is getting some great crowd heat in this one. Shane Douglas is slowed down when he's smacked in the nutsack. Raven wants to send him into a chair, but the whip is turned around and Raven crashes into the chair and falls out of the ring. After a lot, and I mean a lot of playing with the crowd, Douglas puts on the figure 4. He's even cheating and using the ropes. I'm not sure why he's not allowed to do this, they've been using weapons all match. Raven turns the submission over, but he can't hold on to it. Douglas looks like he tapped out, but he hasn't. This is truly Raven's comeback now, he hits about 50 clotheslines. One of them looks really bad too, and the crowd loudly boo. Yet another eyelash poke stops Raven. Douglas can't hit the belly to belly as Raven headbutts him, and Raven steals the belly to belly. No pin is made as James Mitchell is here. He interrupts Raven when he's about to do the Raisin effect. Mitchell reveals he's got a body bag containing one of Raven's friends, Mickie James, who is suffocating in the bag. Raven tries to help her, but he's stopped by Douglas. But straight away, Douglas tries a suplex, which Raven reverses into a pin, and that is the 3. Wow, I mean, all this build, and was this really the best match they could come up with? It just didn't feel epic or worth the build. I did enjoy Douglas for his crowd work here, but the match was not good. I'm giving it a D for the crowd heat. By the way, it turns out that we're not done by a long shot with Raven and Douglas fighting. Strap yourselves in, or as your girl says to you, strap on. Match 7, TNA 20-man Royal Rumble match. Final 2 will have a match for the heavyweight title number contendership. What a surprise, Douglas enters towards the end of the match. In fact, he's second last. He slams D'Lo in the corner and plays to the crowd. He tries to rearrange D'Lo Brown's facial features, but Brown and Conrad start smacking him down. The man called Raisin is of course the final entrant, but he's not exactly in the best physical condition here. Like a dumbass, Douglas stands in the corner watching Raven dominate everyone. Luckily for Douglas, the idiot Abyss takes him out, but Raven no-sells that and gets rid of Abyss. And he's back to fighting Douglas, who clotheslines Raven down. Downtown, D'Lo Brown hits Douglas for sit-out spinebuster. We're down to the final 3 now, Raven, Christopher Daniels and Douglas. Raven eliminates Daniels, Douglas dumps in his nappy of fear when he realises he has to fight Raven. It's pinfall and submission only now. It seems like this match isn't going to go for long when Douglas smacks Raven in the head with the chair, but he just about kicks out. Raven responds for drop toe hold into a steel chair for a double down. Back on their feet, Raven almost rolls him up before Douglas clotheslines him. Raven yet again reverses Douglas into a pin now, and yet again Douglas smacks him down. Shane Douglas looks for the belly to belly, but Raven Al Snow headbutts him to stop him. And then there's the Raven effect, and that is the 3 count. Raven's proven to be the real run-ender for Douglas. Well, Douglas eliminated nobody in the match and then lost to Raven, who was at death's door the entire time. It's an S. Match 8, 6-man tag. The franchise Shane Douglas teams up with Sin and the Slash Man with James Mitchell to take on the 3 live crew. Ron the Truth Killings, Conrad and Mold Dog. Douglas is arguing with the ring rats at ringside again. Anything to get out starting the match. Which works for him. Eventually the crew force him into the match and the crew help Truth hit him with a leg drop to the nutsack. For the majority of the match, Douglas does nothing else. He eventually tries an ab stretch on Mold Dog, who quickly hip tosses him away. Mold Dog smacks him down and this is the double down. So he's lost the team's advantage. Congratulations, Douglas. They're better off without him. Truth has the tag and he takes Douglas down with a head scissors and a spinning heel kick. Nice move now. Truth tries the 10 punches in the corner, but he senses the attack coming from behind and does the splits, so the Slash Man smacks his own partner. The match breaks down. Truth nicely lands on his feet from a back body drop. He can't put Douglas away as James Mitchell stops him. Nothing happens and the Truth smashes Douglas out of the ring. The Gathering all rush the ring and the match is thrown out for DQ. Douglas did the sum total of nothing in this match and actually did his own team more harm than good. It's an S. Match 9, Wednesday, Bloody Wednesday. Yes, that is the name of this match, but it's actually just War Games. TNA had this habit of giving wacky names to established matches. Chris Harris, D'Lo Brown, James Storm, Slapnuts and Raven versus Styles, Daniels, Swinger, Diamond and Shane Douglas. Of course, Shane Douglas is not one of the men who start this match. In fact, he's one of the last men to enter this match. Slapnuts hits him in the head with a lid almost straight away. Moments later, Russo throws a baseball bat into the cage which Douglas actually catches. Fair play for pulling that one off so flawlessly. Slapnuts is the victim of some baseball bat shots. Man, Raven's looking extra bloated at this point in his career. He of course fights Douglas when he enters, but the camera mostly misses it. This match is really annoying, it's just a bunch of lumps smashing together like morons. Douglas hits Raven with a trash can and nobody cares. Raven turns it around with, I guess, a frying pan or something. I have no idea. The commentary team are only interested about screaming about Slapnuts and Russo. Speaking of Slapnuts, he gives Douglas 20 smacks in the corner. Wow, an actual move. Raven hits the franchise with the Raisin effect. Everyone starts hitting big moves, but Douglas doesn't have any, so he does nothing. It ends with D'Lo Brown and Chris Harris hitting dives, and Jarrett scrambles to steal the pin for his team. There's a big post-match fight, but at this point I don't care, and it's the most nailed-on S so far. The franchise did nothing. It's going to be hard for him to be seen as a main eventer when he does nothing. He doesn't look like a threat. He gives Raven a haircut after the match. Match 10, hair versus hair match. Shane Douglas with Father James Mitchell versus Raven. A long stare-off to start this match. Douglas keeps getting distracted by the crowd though. He needs to pay attention though, because Douglas would definitely not look good bowled. Raven smacks him a few times and launches him out the ring. He's unharmed. Raven sends him out the ring again, but once again he beats Raven back into the ring. Raven smacks him one. Eventually they fight in the crowd. Raven hits him with a chair and does a spinning leg drop to the chair. Raven has a fan hold a steel chair and then he throws Douglas into it. The ref is a dick and demands they go back to the ring. For a while now we get Raven trying the Cobra Clutch. It doesn't really look very good. Douglas eventually punches him in the gut to get him off. Shane Douglas drops down and hits the drop toe hold to send Raven from the ring, but that doesn't help him and Raven does the Russian leg sweep into the crowd barrier. Another drop toe hold now, this time it's Raven on Douglas. Raven is stopped by a kick to the nutsack and he slams Raven's head into the steps. Douglas starts targeting Raven's head with more smacks and he's opened up. Wow, we get an actual move now. Douglas does that throwback type move that Cena uses. He's unhurt and both guys start trading submission holds. Nobody manages to keep one on for long though. It ends with Douglas hip tossing Raven out of the ring. Douglas brings him back to the ring. Both guys look like bird turd. Raven does some smacks which causes Douglas to start puking in the middle of the ring. It must almost be over, but it isn't. Douglas gets a steel chain and smacks Raven in the head for a 2. Raven responds with a drop toe hold into the steel chair. Raven yet again crushes Douglas, this time with a bulldog into the chair. Douglas looks like he's in real trouble here. Raven ducks his clothesline and hits him with a super kick. It's just a 2 because the Slash Man is here and he pulls the ref away. Now it is one of my all-time favourite ref bumps as Raven knocks 2 wrestlers and a ref down like bowling pins. Raven is beaten up by other members of the New Church and Douglas boots Raven in the head. The Gathering fight the New Church away. Douglas quickly loses the advantage as the Raven effect connects. Just a 2. Now Douglas stacks him on the top rope and he's looking for something big, but he can't find it as Raven pushes him through a table. Surprisingly, that is also just a 2. Shane Douglas puts Raven on another table. He climbs to the top, but Raven suddenly wakes up and jumps up to the top too. He hits the Raven effect on Douglas through the table. The ref tries to count the 3, but the lights go out. When they come back on, the Mummy is in the ring now, who turns out to be Vampiro. He DDTs Raven and leaves. That's the 3 for Shane Douglas. Raven is shaved bald, and it's probably the cleanest ever shaving I've seen in a wrestling match. This will probably be one of the main matches of the video, but I'm disappointed by Douglas's lack of moves. They wrestled for 20 odd minutes and I couldn't tell you a single thing he did other than puke. I saw a lot of Douglas in my Terry Funk in ECW run and he was a gritty technical wrestler at times. He did obviously put his body on the line in this match, it was fun at times too. Maybe that's just his style, a fluky wrestler who can't do anything without help. It's a C at best. Match 11, 6-man dog collar tag match. Shane Douglas once again teams up with Slash and Sin, the New Church. They take on the newly bold Raven, Pepsi Punk and Julio De Niro. But we're not hanging around here. Raven of course ties himself to Shane Douglas because we apparently haven't seen enough of these two fighting yet. Raven quickly clotheslines Douglas down. It's a dog collar match, there isn't much to say. Lots of choking going on. I'd love to have something interesting to tell you, but I don't. What is it with all these slow motion clotheslines? The most entertaining part of the match is Julio De Niro failing to climb into the ring. Shane Douglas decides that it's a good idea to sit on the top rope for an entire 20 seconds. Raven of course gives him a sore nutsack. Douglas is down from that one for ages. When he gets up, the Gathering take him straight back down with a bulldog. Triple 10 punches in the corner with the chains now, and then Douglas and the New Church smash into each other in the centre of the ring. Raven and Douglas are fighting outside the ring, and then you hear a 3 count. We suddenly learn that Julio De Niro has won the match. Not sure how he won, or what he wins. Maybe it's a punch to the gut. This match was terrible. It was slow, botchy, and I didn't even get to see the finish after sitting through the entire thing. The New Church hang Raven and CM Punk after the match for no reason. Nobody comes out to save them, no security, no referees, nobody cares, and the show ends, so Raven and Pepsi Punk are presumably dead. Somebody update their Wikipedia pages. Shove it.
Shove it!
Well, believe it or not, that's where the feud with Raven and the Gathering ended.
Hell no!
What happened next was a bunch of low-budget promo packages with Douglas proclaiming that he was bringing a new franchise faction to TNA. Match 12, Shane Douglas vs. the Sandman. Douglas is scared of the Sandman's cane. The ref manages to get the cane away and Hack starts smacking Douglas down time and time again. Franchise manages to get him out the ring and he connects with the baseball slide dropkick. His next move is reversed and Sandman is able to set up a chair. He tries to dive but he crashes and burns. And then completely randomly Douglas hits him with a belly to belly into the guardrail. By far the nicest move in 12 matches. It's just a 2 count though. Douglas remains in control of a suplex and now Shane Douglas with a throwback type move. This is the longest run of moves Douglas has managed in this entire video. He hits another one now. It's a snapmare into a chin lock now for Douglas. Douglas gives up on the chin lock and makes the bizarre decision to try a dive. The Sandman stops him and throws him. Hack front suplexes him on the ropes and then sort of hits his guillotine leg drop. The Sandman knows that wasn't good enough, so he leapfrogs into the ring with another leg drop. Douglas is set up on the top rope and there's the Frankensteiner from Sandman. But the Sandman doesn't make the pin, instead he wants his cane and this is so he can hit the white Russian leg sweep. Somehow the idiot ref doesn't notice Tracy Brooks diving off the top rope with a move called the Pie in the Sky. This interference is enough for Douglas to hit the belly to belly. That isn't the 3 though, so Douglas simply does it again and this time that is the 3. So few moves in this run, but this match easily had the most. Tracy Brooks is with the franchise. This match is a C, it was alright. The next person to be added to the group was Shawn Michaels' cousin, Michael Shane, presumably because he shared the Shane name with Douglas. Douglas vows that no one in TNA is going to be safe and the faction will make some noise. I highly doubt it. Match 13, tag match, Shane Douglas and Michael Shane with Tracy Brooks. You know what, I hate the way Shane Douglas sells how much of a simp he is for Tracy. Let me know, but I think it makes him look like a goon. I'm not saying that you wouldn't enjoy being with her, but don't let everyone see how excited you are. They take on Sonjay Dutt and Chris Sabin. Douglas doesn't start the match as usual. He gets in against Sonjay Dutt and he's immediately hip tossed. Chris Sabin has the tag now. Douglas manages to knock him down not once, not twice, but thrice, and it sure wasn't nice. Sabin grabs Douglas by the legs and manages some knockdowns of his own. Tracy stops his run and Douglas smashes Sabin down. Douglas now does 2 snap suplexes into a delayed one without release. Now he snaps Sabin's neck and tags out. We next get to see Douglas happily holding his legs out in the corner as Sonjay is smashed into his boots. Eventually Sonjay gets the tag after Sabin kicks Douglas. Sonjay lands a springboard crossbody. This is a pretty nice hot tag here. Dutt is smashing both members of the new franchise. They try double team which doesn't work as Sabin springboards in with a dropkick taking out both our guys. Bit of a scary moment now as Douglas carries Sonjay above his head whilst running. That could have gone wrong, but he shoves Sonjay on the top rope. Sonjay immediately shoves Douglas away and hits a nice elbow, but he can't get the 3. Michael Shane accidentally smacks his own partner out the ring. Sabin attempts to dive but he's off balance. He tries a slingshot dive instead which looks a bit unsafe. Tracy hits the Pie in the Sky on Sonjay followed by the sweet chin music from Michael Shane and Douglas gets the win. Very enjoyable chaotic match. Douglas was more involved than I expected him to be, at least based on the evidence we've seen today so far. But then they instantly lose their credit because Sabin takes out the new franchise with a double DDT and Sonjay moonsaults him too. I'm not expecting much from the new franchise based on that evidence, but yeah, it was a fun match, it's a B. Match 14, singles match, Shane Douglas with Tracy Brooks versus Chris Sabin. Douglas is of course not the fan favourite in this one if you hadn't guessed. Douglas looks out at the crowd and kicks Sabin in the gut. Sabin's dumb for walking into that one. Douglas misses his clothesline and Sabin smashes him with an enziguri kick. Now it's a slam. Sabin can't dive as he's caught on the top rope and Douglas quickly hits a middle rope suplex, just a 2 count. Nice front suplex from Shane Douglas now. And there's the neck snapper special. Sabin blocks his next couple of strikes and he smashes Douglas down with a single chop. Sabin catapults Douglas into the corner to not much effect. Chris Sabin flies now with a springboard clothesline, but Douglas gets his foot on the ropes. We get a meeting of the minds from Sabin and Douglas now. Can you imagine how much it would hurt smashing into Douglas's meathead? Tracy tries to hand Douglas a chain, which Sabin kicks away. And Sabin knocks the franchise down with a nice heel kick. Michael Shane is here now, but he's easily dealt with by a Sabin triangle dropkick. Tracy just says screw it and she climbs into the ring. The ref decides to completely ignore that and walks away. Douglas accidentally smashes into his girl in the corner, and then Sabin wins with a victory roll. Well, I wasn't expecting Sabin to get the win against the odds here. I'm enjoying these matches against smaller opponents. Ultimately, it was the Chris Sabin show here. Shane Douglas gets a D for his efforts. Match 15, singles match. The franchise Shane Douglas with Tracy versus Elix Skipper. Douglas gets the ref to check Skipper's boots, but he's just using that as an opportunity to try and get the jump on him. It doesn't work out though. Skipper with a nice back kick in the corner which makes Douglas plead with him. He's just playing possum and he sends Primetime into the turnbuckle. Nice move from Douglas now with the delayed front suplex. The next snapper special seems to snap Skipper for real and he's now got a bad neck. Skipper's in a bad way. There's the TKO from Shane Douglas. Douglas is in no real rush to put Skipper out of his misery. But out of nowhere Skipper catches Douglas with a spin kick. He's dumb though and he gets distracted by Tracy. Douglas smacks him and hits a full Nelson facebuster into a full Nelson submission hold and Skipper taps out. You know what? Great squash match, really enjoyable. It told a story, had some new moves and our guy won. As far as 3-minute matches go, it's an A from the Hawk. More of the same please. Match 16, tag match. The new franchise with Tracy Brooks versus Triple X, Chris Daniels and Elix Skipper. The Hawk has high hopes for this one. Shane is sent out of the ring quickly and Douglas soon follows him. Daniels smacks Shane and brings him back. The Triple X boys hit him with a double hip toss. Douglas is smashed by both Triple X guys in the corner. Now there's a snapmare by Skipper into a kick to the back of the head which makes a great noise. Douglas grabs his eyelashes and tags out. It's Michael Shane's turn to get completely destroyed. It's not looking good for our team at all. Eventually Shane Douglas realises he has to do something and he rushes the ring to hit Skipper with the neck snapper special. That enables Michael Shane to finally make the tag. Douglas puts on that full Nelson submission that beat him in the last match, but Daniels immediately makes the save for Skipper. Despite now being in full control, the new franchise decide to look for weapons. Douglas sets a bunch of chairs up at ringside. Skipper desperately tries to fight out the corner, which is stopped by Douglas. Shane Douglas spits on Daniels, which makes him dump in his nappy of anger, but it also distracts the ref. Michael Shane tries to backdrop Elix Skipper on the chairs, but he can't manage it. Douglas pulls the funniest face when he realises that Skipper isn't dead and hasn't gone through the chairs. Elix kicks him in the face and moments later the tag is made. Christopher Daniels kicks both of the franchise crew. And now it's a double clothesline. Chris Daniels gets distracted by Michael Shane, so Douglas sneaks up on him with a full Nelson facebuster. It's not over because Skipper's woken up now and he drop kicks Douglas into the guardrail and hits a corkscrew dive out of the ring. Suddenly, Douglas is laid out on the chair pile. Skipper is stopped from diving on him by Tracy, and then, Jesus, that is one of the most brutal looking spots I've ever seen in wrestling. Skipper and Tracy are both presumably dead, but Douglas manages to move out of the way of the move. Tracy is heard loudly crying in pain. Chris Daniels should have it won, but the ref's gone. I don't blame him for being distracted by that one. That was a real car crash. Douglas smacks Daniels with a chain and brings the ref back. The ref counts to 3 and we're done. Wow, the improvement since he stopped fighting the old ECW guys. I know he's not doing anything incredible, but he's now combining his character work with his actual wrestling. I loved this match, how have I never seen it before? I know a lot of this was down to the guys doing crazy stuff, but I'm sorry, this match was so much fun. I can't give it anything but an A.
Give me 5, bitch!
Match 17, tag match. The new franchise of Tracy Brooks versus the Free Live crew. Truth and Conad, who are accompanied by the Mouldy One. The match starts with Douglas trying to do poetry in motion with his partner. Instead, Conad runs off Douglas's back. Conad hip tosses Douglas and holds his leg so Truth can hit the nutsack leg drop. Michael Shane sends Truth out the ring and takes him out. Then he holds Truth so Douglas can hit the baseball slide. Back in the ring now it's Douglas with the neck snapper special. That's enough for him and he tags out. When he comes back, we randomly get a brand new move from Douglas, a pile driver. I'm shocked it has taken that long for this. Wasn't there millions on the ECW run with Terry Funk? I might be wrong. Truth seems hurt from that one, or perhaps he suffered a Steve Borden, aka a stinger. No, it turns out he's just no-selling it as Shane Douglas's eyes turn white with fear. Truth smashes him down with the lie detector. Konad gets the tag and he scores some knockdowns. He sends Douglas out the ring and now he's gone. This causes Douglas to get in a fight with Mold Dog at the commentary desk. Konad has the match won with a tequila sunrise but no ref. Tracy stops him and Michael Shane wins with a super kick. That was a win I certainly didn't see coming. It was decent but not as good as the last matches. It's a D. Match 18, TNA main event. Chris Harris, who brawls with Slapnuts before the bell, and Shane Douglas, who saves Slapnuts before the bell. If this main event wasn't exciting enough, we've got a Harris twin as the special referee. Well, that's not the only weird thing at the start of the match. Douglas takes Harris down with a diving armbar. Then he picks him up and hits a shoulder breaker. See, I told you he had moves, he just wasn't using them for some reason. Harris is sent out the ring where Douglas drops the crowd barrier on his arm. We then come back to the ring where Harris almost wins with a small package. Man, Douglas looks so small next to Harris. How tall is Shane Douglas anyway? That doesn't really matter and he suplexes Harris. He follows that with a delayed vertical suplex. The next snapper special leaves Harris screaming in pain. Harris does eventually hawk up and he hits the Bulldog. Now Chris Harris hits the inverted atomic drop and then he dives with a crossbody. Just a 2. The match is looking really slow at this point and lacking in energy. Douglas stops the German suplex and there's an awkward meeting of the minds as they smash together. I think something was supposed to happen so they do it again and this time Douglas falls out the ring. Jarrett is causing trouble as he's often known to do. That distracts the Harris twin referee as Douglas takes out James Storm and he also hits Chris Harris with a chain. Nope, believe it or not that's just a 2 count. The Harris twin then gets distracted again and James Storm is in the ring hitting an enziguri. Chris Harris wins it with a spear. Not fearing this match, it was slow and clunky, it's a D. Match 19, singles match, Shane Douglas with Tracy versus James Storm. Douglas is in a bad mood from losing that last match. It doesn't seem to help him as Storm back body drops him and drop kicks him. Now Storm smashes him with a dive out the ring. The cowboy keeps going and nails 10 punches in the corner. Ugh. The next 20 seconds are the ugliest in the whole of wrestling. Botchy Irish whip reversals and Douglas getting confused and falling over. The crowd are in complete silence. Storm tries to skin the cat, but he's kicked away by Douglas. Why is this match still going? Next snapper special from Douglas now. Douglas is an idiot and decides to climb the top rope. Storm stops him and throws him. The cowboy does some weak clothesline for a 2 count. Now it's a Russian leg sweep for another 2. They decide to do the Irish whip reversal again, this time into a power slam, at least it looked better. Storm is running and bouncing around in the ring, I don't know what's wrong with him. He super kicks the rope, and his boot gets stuck to it. What, does it have glue on it or something? How did he get stuck? Douglas has it won with a belly to belly, but Tracy is distracting the ref. When Douglas turns around, he gets a last call super kick and it's over. A horrible match, one of the worst I've seen on Ring of the Hawk. The new franchise all have tension after the match. The match is a blatant S. Match 20, tag match. The new franchise of Tracy versus Triple X, The Warrior Low-Key and Christopher Daniels. Shane Douglas rushes the ring against Daniels, but he's hip tossed and drop kicked. Triple X give him a front suplex across the ropes and they both drop kick him in the head at the same time. Why is the Warrior wrestling in a nappy? Douglas turns it around against Nappy Man. He doesn't stay in control because Loki starts doing some Mongolian chops to the head. There just isn't much happening here so far. Daniels does hit a nice kick on Shane Douglas. Loki doesn't want to be outdone and hits a rolling kick on him. Shane Douglas is out of the ring where Daniels hits him with a dive. The new franchise continue to have problems. Triple X beat Michael Shane with a DWI. Wasn't that the beer money finish or did I just imagine that? Who cares, the match sucked and so did Douglas. It's an F. Match 21, 4 corners tag match for the number contendership for the tag titles. It's Sonny, Don't Look at My Ass Siaki, and Simon the Diamond versus the gifted Glenn Gilberti, How Is He Gifted, and the master of the cab driver slam, David Young, versus the new franchise of Tracy Brooks versus D'Lo Brown and Apollo. Douglas starts with D'Lo, who's just returned from Japan. Shane Douglas holds him in a keylock for ages whilst D'Lo starts smacking him. Douglas strangely rolls over D'Lo's back. He just about lands it, but it's probably the most athletic thing I've seen him do. Then D'Lo kicks his head off. Apollo has the tag and they do a double hip toss together, and they also hit a leg drop splash combo. Douglas starts hitting some shoulder thrusts against the ropes and hits a front suplex to Apollo to calm him down. It's the next snapper special now. It looks terrible, he doesn't even really connect, and then he ends up in the cabbie's corner and they both smack him one. Apollo picks him up and throws him across the ring, but that allows Michael Shane to get the tag. A bit later on, Sonny Don't Look at My Ass Siaki smacks Douglas off the ring apron and they have a little brawl out there. The match just kind of carries on for ages. There's lots of main characters on this channel in this match, so I remain entertained. David Young is in the middle of his losing streak gimmick, except I'm not sure it was a gimmick. It all comes to a head when D'Lo throws the franchise team into each other. Things are boiling over on the outside and Michael Shane decides to walk out the match and Douglas follows him. The match is won by Apollo with a TKO on the cabbie. Well, let's be honest, they gave up on the match. They didn't even finish the match, so it's an S from the Hawk. Match 22, singles match, Michael Shane versus Shane Douglas with Tracy. There's a weird face-heel dynamic for this match. We get a back body drop on me straight away and he clears Michael Shane from the ring. Wow, Douglas hits a dive out of the ring, that's not something we've seen. Michael Shane tries to use Tracy as a human shield, which doesn't work, and Douglas shunts him into the pole, nutsack first. They head back to the ring and they both look exhausted already. Michael Shane sends him into the corner and Douglas runs straight out and hits the neck snapper special. Michael Shane takes him down with an R-bar takedown. He's all over his arm here for most of the match. The crowd are still cheering for Michael Shane, even though he's meant to be the heel. Michael Shane works the submissions on the shoulder for a while until Douglas slams him off. Michael Shane immediately gets back on top with more arm work. Shane slams him and heads up top, but no, Tracy stops him. Don't you love how Tracy is the broken arm boy in this video? Michael Shane can't connect with his diving elbow drop. Shane Douglas hits 3 elbow knockdowns to the face. Now it's a nice suplex series from Douglas. He can't get the 3. Douglas tries to belly now, but he's too weak and Shane drives him down to the mat with a flatliner. It seems like it's almost over, but out of nowhere Douglas snaps off a power slam which gets him a 2. Tracy clambers up onto the ring apron. She throws a chain to Michael Shane, but he's immediately drop kicked by Douglas. He smacks Michael Shane with the chain and makes the pin for the 3. It turns out that Tracy is actually with Michael Shane, which doesn't even make sense because she did things like causing him to get knocked off the top rope. Shane Douglas smacks her ass as a punishment, but Tracy hits him with her cast. She chokes him with a strap and Michael Shane super kicks him. Overall, it was just a bit weird having Shane Douglas as a good guy and the crowd were in complete silence. It's a D. Match 23, corporate punishment match, whatever the hell that is. The roles are now reversed, Michael Shane with Tracy versus the heel Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas with the first knockdown with a big hip toss and a headlock takeover. They now take turns sweeping out each other's legs. They look around expectantly at the audience who give them a polite clap. Douglas joins in. They start again and it's Michael Shane with a Northern Light suplex. Douglas kicks out and takes him down with a drop toe hold. Shane Douglas starts getting cocky, so Shane slaps him. What happened next was unexpected. Shane Douglas throws Michael Shane out the ring and on top of Tracy, sort of. Now you see Douglas is going back to his old ways here, it's not right. He's going back to the ways from the start of the video. He's proved he could have good matches, why is he lowering himself to this hardcore stuff? Michael Shane tries to dive off the ring steps but he's caught and powerbombed on the outside. Douglas manages to hurt his shoulder in the process. Suddenly, Michael Shane realises this is a corporate punishment match, whatever the hell that is, and he starts whipping Shane Douglas. Michael Shane hangs him across the ropes using the strap. Now he hits a diving double axe which Shane Douglas no-sells. He comes out the corner and hits the neck snapper special with authority, probably the best that move's looked all video. Don West tries to tell us about Shane's bad arm. He says that he can barely get it up, and then you can hear him chuckling. Douglas hits the belly to belly, but Tracy the face puts her man's leg on the rope. Maybe she was confused. Douglas pushes her in the face. When he turns around he's almost rolled up, but it's just a 2. Tracy again causes a distraction. Douglas blocks the super kick attempt, sweeps out Michael Shane's leg and executes a jackknife cover for the 3. He wants to spank Tracy again, but Michael Shane runs him off. Not the epic clash it could have been, it's a D. And that ends his main run with TNA as a wrestler at least. So he beats his former partner and then he's done. Okay, whatever. Douglas went into semi-retirement at this point. He continued with TNA as a backstage interviewer. He looked like he aged 1,000 years in a matter of months. But that sort of changed in the summer of 2006 when Shane Douglas decided to lead the team of the Naturals, Chase Stevens and Andy Douglas. Presumably because they shared the Douglas name. Andy Douglas was his son. Typical TNA. No, I'm just kidding you, this one did have a sensible reason. Chris Candido used to manage this Naturals team and Shane Douglas was disappointed to see how the team were doing. Shane and Chris Candido were the best of friends, so it made sense. Douglas managing the team lasted about 6 months until Shane got tired of the franchise Naturals, and this time he was done with TNA. For a year and a half. He returned in 2009 saying he wanted another chance. Match 24, the franchise Shane Douglas. He looks old, pale, overweight. He looks like an indie dork actually. Why did TNA decide to put him back on TV in 2009 is still a mystery to me. And believe it or not, he takes on the phenomenal AJ Styles. Douglas keeps dumping in his nappy affair whilst AJ finds him hilarious. AJ just has too much pace for Douglas, he smashes him with a dropkick. Douglas leaves the ring, but AJ won't let him rest and dives on him. This seems to hurt AJ's ankle and the franchise throws him into a fence. He's not in control for long as AJ throws him into the ring pole. They come back to the ring with Douglas managing to stop AJ's springboard attempt. He also dropkicks Styles off the apron. It sort of carries on plodding along. AJ hits the Pele kick eventually to wake me up, with Shane Douglas getting his leg on the rope. Douglas can't hit the belly to belly and AJ takes him down with a flying armbar. Douglas literally moved his feet away from the ropes and then he taps out. This is all despite AJ not even working on his arm the entire match. We get a post-match attack hitting Daniels with a handcuff wrapped in a towel. It doesn't seem like something that would really hurt, to be honest. A terrible dumb match, it's an S. Match 25, final match, Slammiversary 2009, last chance match. The winner of the match gets a TNA contract and a punch to the gut. Shane Douglas versus Christopher Daniels. Poor Daniels is crushed against the ropes for ages. He eventually gets free and dropkicks Shane Douglas' legs out. Moments later, Douglas gets Daniels back on the mat and uses him like a surfboard. Daniels retaliates with the exact same move. A dropkick takes Douglas off his feet again. Daniels goes running, but he just runs in to do a headlock. It looks a bit weird. It doesn't lead to anything anyway, and Daniels starts throwing some kicks. Douglas spends time filling his nappy on the outside, but Daniels isn't having it and hits him with a split-legged moonsault. Douglas turns it around by throwing him into the steps. The crowd is sounding extremely restless at this point. I know how they feel. This one goes way longer than I expected. Daniels does a Northern Lights, but he can't do the BME because the franchise stops him. Unfortunately, Douglas is back in it. Daniels blocks the belly-to-belly attempt to connect the STO. Yay, there's the best moonsault ever, and it's game over. Douglas has lost. No job for Douglas. Look, this match had no place in 2009. There was nothing Douglas was bringing at this point. All he did was slow Daniels down. He tried hard, but it was nothing. It's an S. Well, that was an interesting run. I feel like it peaked in the middle, which is unusual. It's usually a slow turd into the toilet. He clearly still had his mic skills and knew how to work a crowd, but his wrestling was slow, boring and predictable. Now, all that being said, I'm shocked TNA didn't push him in the main events more, considering he was an ex-ECW champion. And I have to say props to Douglas for working with so many young guys. All that's left to do is shove Shane Douglas a final grade for the Ring of the Hawk Season 3. And I honestly feel like it was a middle of the road C. He excelled in some areas, but failed in others. It's just a shame so much of his early run was wasted in nonsense hardcore matches that it didn't look like his strongest area, which is fair, and if you don't agree with that, I don't care.